Hi and welcome back to the Guildford Games Festival. We are joined by Jonny and Adam from Glowmade. Hey guys.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
It's nice to see you in the flesh.
In the actual flesh. I could almost touch you, I'm just not allowed. It's a shame, isn't it? We should get those bubbles that we can just
We could zorb, do the whole thing via zorbs.
I'd be quite into that. So we are here to talk about building a studio, as you guys have successfully kind of built.
We've built it.
Up.
We've turned on a studio and it hasn't turned off yet.
It's on. It's still on. I've seen it. I've seen the lights.
It's still on our website.
But before we get to that, could you guys just give me a kind of brief overview of your careers? You can bicker between you as to who goes first.
You're older than me.
That's a way to do it.
You started first.
Yeah, you're in the alphabet first.
Okay. So I'm the art director. So I liked drawing.
Gotcha.
Draw. Wanted to make movie monsters. Then computers came along. Learned how to do computers at Bournemouth Uni.
Nice.
Then fell into games because I wanted to do movies, but then suddenly accidentally fell into games, and then I preferred it because I knew loads of people who worked in movies and said, you know what, it's got stressful. So I was like, well, so is games, but it was so much more fun, and we had a lot more freedom. So yeah, so I ended up in games.
Makes sense. What about you, Jay Hobbs?
So I back in the olden days when Lionhead existed.
I recall.
You
need something to pour out.
I know, yeah. They used to have this open work experience plan. This is like the late 90s. And I basically wrote in and said, can I do that? And they said, okay. And then I sort of wrote in again and said, can I come back? And they said, okay. And then I said to Peter one day, can I have a job? And he said, okay. And then I turned up and everyone said, who are you? But I didn't leave. So I worked at Lionhead for a few years on the movies. Then I went to Media Molecule when they started in 2006 and worked on Little Big Planet, which is now one of those games where you talk to people about it and they say, I played that when I was a kid. And your grey beard gets a bit longer. And then in 2015, we started Glowmade. So I'm one of the founders with Adam and Mike Green, and I'm the technical director as well.
We should have got a cutout of Mike to just keep in the background, just always watching.
Like he's dead.
No, it's a horrible time to talk about it. So when did you? So you just kind of briefly touched on starting Glowmade. What was your motivation for doing so? What led you to that point?
Well, so we did. So again, Lionhead's where we worked together, and they had this creative day thing, which was 2 days. It was a game jam before game jams really existed, and we did a game jam, me, Mike, and Adam, and it was really fun. And we thought, well, let's try and do that professionally. And so then we just started plotting really furtively and really obviously in retrospect.
I like that.
And then here we are. So we wanted to make wacky things.
Yeah, we did. And it was one of those things where we just sort of realised that we had the really core ingredients in just a tiny amount of people.
Yeah.
Like, actually, we can do.
Yeah, like when you get really good
somebody
three-piece
that can draw,
bands.
somebody who can make games fun, and somebody who can do nerdy stuff. So,
no offense.
Yeah. So, and we had all that together, and we were like, wow, it worked. And we didn't do any overtime, and we just thought, wow, what if we actually did this for real? Yeah.
I mean, not to do overtime for Creative Day is quite something.
Well, that was like the challenge we set ourselves was like, okay, it's a 2-day thing. Let's start at... So we had one meeting, I think, at the start of the week, so what are we going to do? And then on the Thursday morning, we sort of started at 9 o'clock or whatever. We went home at 6, did it again, and at 6 o'clock on Friday, we were like, okay, that'll do.
Done.
And then...
we had that real sort of... I think it reawakened that kind of small team fun in us.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I really enjoyed it, all the stuff we did at Lionhead, but I think it kind of... That little dormant, we could have some really fun kind of quick iteration and... just run over and draw this, Adam, and Jonny could make this work by lunchtime, and we had this kind of, and suddenly we were like, oh this is awesome and fun again.
Almost like back to your roots, right?
Oh,
this is what it was before we kind of added all of these layers of process. And
absolutely.
Adam loves his analogies. He's got the ocean liner versus the speedboat. So it's like Lionhead at the time was 200 people, it's massive and doing amazing stuff, but it was like that was the ocean liner, and we were like, oh, let's be a speedboat.
Yeah, I think we got a little bit sort of bored of waiting for 2 weeks for a decision to come back, whereas we let's do it by 11, we can get a picture in there and make this work, and that's the speedboat, quick turnaround.
Understandable. Yeah, I can completely see why you would have gotten to that point, and I should think there are a lot of people, not just within Lionhead, but elsewhere, that absolutely get to that. I just want to be able to make something and see it, and carry on with my day, and then work out from there. So just because we've touched on it, and I know this isn't really what we're here to talk about, but you know, I could talk about it all day. What was it like after all those years at Lionhead to watch it? Because you guys had formed Glowmade by that point. It's only been a couple of months, right?
We left in the summer, I think the summer of 2015, and I just remember actually Mike, it was just like the mid-morning, and he just went, oh no. And
was that it?
Yeah, just he went, oh no. And the news thing had come out, and yeah, it's slightly weird to see it kind of unfolding from a distance as well, with all these people that we knew so well.
Yeah. And knowing sort of, obviously, basically a load of friends have been working so hard, and then you can just see it. But I was surprised at Lionhead going under, them closing that down as well as the game. I just thought maybe they're moving on to the next thing, you know. But
I think that's what
we were all
expecting.
caught out a little bit.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, and I've just recalled whilst we're talking about it, you were the first person I spoke to. You phoned me on the day that it went down. Are you all right? What's going on? And I was just in a dream, like, I don't know. I think Benny's coming over. Like, I had no idea what was happening. The whole thing was so bizarre. Yeah. But yeah, it must have been so much stranger for you guys to not be there, not to, you know.
I think the weird thing is that all these conversations always come back to Lionhead, I think, because for whatever reason, historical or whatever, like it is that kind of epicenter and people would leave and then they'd come back, and there was always a very welcoming.
It was a home.
It was for a lot of people.
It was a home, and it was, I mean, for me certainly, and I'm sure for plenty of other people, it was a school. It was somewhere I went to learn my craft better, and learn other crafts that I never expected that I'd get to learn. You know, walk past Adam Stone one day and then I'm learning about design and actually driving it, thinking, what am I doing? You know, that kind of stuff. It was an absolute haven for creativity above all else. So yes, God bless you, Lionhead. God bless you. Okay, so what immediate obstacles would you say someone wanting to go it alone, anyone in that position where you guys were, you know, working for a big company thinking, I want to get this done on my own, what are the main kind of obstacles that you're likely to come up against?
Money.
Gotcha. Do you need some?
You do, apparently, yes, you do. It's very, very easy to look at it when you are in your early 20s, and I've been there myself, and like, okay, my rent is a couple £100 a month, and then I can eat noodles and whatever, and it's like, and you can budget at a certain level for yourself, but then, you know, I've got a wife and a daughter. Adam's got 35. I mean,
there's
children.
at least 35 of them.
I think there's a couple of stairs. I think there's a couple that wandered out. But
yeah. Have you had any today? But you know, like, so suddenly it's like there's this real business of, okay, we have to. I know how much it costs me to. I know how I could live on noodles, but I can't ask the family to do that.
My child might not be so into that.
Exactly, and so then suddenly you think, well, okay, we actually need to earn proper salaries, and we want other people to come to work for us. Well, they need proper salaries because we can't get them to just do it for love, and they've got families, and then suddenly it's like, oh, we're a small company. Versus, you know, there's some really big ones around here, so we can't necessarily compete with some of all the perks. So so what else can we do? And that's the main thing, is just...
And I think that's a bit like the industry as a whole has changed, because, you know, like when I first started, I knew one guy that was married in Big Blue Box, which started off with Fable. That was one person that was married, and everybody else was like, oh, they got a girlfriend or something. And now it's like people are starting up companies as like family people, and
definitely.
It's like an older industry than it was 20 years ago. When
it's a whole new challenge, right? It's got to be I mean, I can't imagine. I don't want to instill it in you at this point, but the fear that you must have felt, thinking, no, we've got to do this, and then that being driven by passion to just get it done, is frankly quite something to admire.
Well, sure. I remember when we started, I'd basically saved up a little bit of money, and I'd got myself a time limit. I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And I've got 3 months to raise the money that we need to go to the next step, and if it doesn't work, I'll go and find a job. And it was like the end of the 3rd month that we kind of managed to raise the money, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, what is this going to work out? I really wanted to, but yeah, it kind of burned through all the money I saved to do it. And I think, you know, it's time as well, because everything, when you're trying to do these kind of business deals or whatever, it's like it all takes absolutely ages, much longer. You kind of. You meet somebody and you show them the game, that's brilliant, yeah, let's do it. You think, oh cool, this is going to be really fast. And it's not, it's, you know, 6 months later.
But that's it, I guess your time scale at that point, you're so raring to go, right? And you've got to get it ready, and it's got, you know, everything's got to be put in place so you can start actually making the thing. But you know, your time scale versus whoever else you're hoping to partner with to get that done are going to be completely out of whack. Essentially, it must be really complicated.
It is.
Yeah, I guess from sort of before we started this, my idea of getting a game done would have been Dragon's Den. So it's like you stand in front of people, say this, they go, okay, take my money, and then 2 weeks later it's up and running. You've already started advertising, but it's not like that. And so that's the bit that that's the awakening sort of. Oh yeah, actually these things do take time. So you have to allow that sort of contingency.
Yeah, the additional learning.
That's definitely something that we've learned.
And plus, I think we're kind of in terms of if you how to put this, like we're not competing with other game developers, but certainly you've got people like the other barriers to entry are so low now. Like there's distribution, technology, like all those things that it's much easier to make a game and distribute it than it used to be. But then you've got people who are who don't have dependents, who do have, they can live on noodles in their parents' kind of spare bedroom or whatever, and so suddenly they've got all these things, and they don't have maybe such the financial concerns that we do, but then that's the success story. It's easy, and people see that, and then but that's not our story. Yeah,
it's a tricky one. I know you guys really have come up against and succeeded, I think, up against quite a few difficulties and various kind of things that need to be jumped through, I guess, to a certain extent. But yeah, it's I don't want to say it's a cautionary tale. I think Glowmade has done incredibly well.
I think it's just realistic. I think
exactly.
We're in one of these companies where we haven't had like a mega success yet, but we're also still going, and that's kind of where a lot of people live.
And growing.
Yeah, and a lot of companies kind of live in that zone. You hear about the people that do amazingly well or crash spectacularly, and we're kind of just at the moment I'd like to think we're kind of doing well and kind of on the up, but like we haven't hit that kind of spectacular success.
I think you will. And kind of on those lines, was there anything that you learned from your work in AAA that's helped or hindered how you're kind of working now? Is there any hangovers from those kind of big processes where you've kind of implemented within your working days?
I think sort of working, like I said, when I started anyway at Big Blue Box, it was the small company thing, which I really enjoyed, but that came with its own sort of. So when we can make something successful work really well, but we can also make something bad really quickly, so which is also, nobody calls you out on it because you're a sort of this small kind of thing, whereas a big AAA, I was doing VFX, and I've got a team of sort of 4 VFX artists that I can sort of lean on and do that. But when you're the only person doing it, if you make a mistake, then it carries across the whole game really quickly as well as the success stuff. So if you do something really well, then it does really well. So it's kind of, I'd say that's kind of learning where, just knowing where those good areas are and where the bad, which ones affect the bad stuff. So.
And how quickly it can, how quickly a decision or a change can impact everyone else in that room, and what the kind of repercussions of that could be.
It's just being aware that as well as the good, the bad can also have a massive effect really quickly. So it's just, as long as you know that's going to happen and everybody else knows that that's a risk, that's fine. It's knowing when you're failing.
That's a
okay.
huge part,
so
right?
Learn from it. So.
Failing quickly and failing repeatedly is absolutely fine, as long as you're failing quickly.
As long as you know about it and don't keep doing the same thing each time.
And moving on. Yeah,
absolutely.
Precisely. What about you, Jonny? Anything particular you'd say?
I think learning how to deliver a thing is a big step. Actually finishing something, shipping it, getting it into a good state is a much bigger ask than it kind of seems from the outside, and having that kind of that rigor of big publishing people kind of making demands and and having the expectations of quality, and it's not just you, it's the whole team, is definitely something typically you see in like a job advert, like people want somebody who's shipped a game, and that's not just because we want to see like there's a box ticked. It's that experience, that understanding of what you need to do to take a game from nothing to actually being playable by a total stranger in their living room or whatever is massive, and it's a very different ask if you're developing something on your own and shipping something versus a team versus it's different again if you're self-funding it versus being funded from the outside as well. Like there's all these different kind of things that I think up the ante, I guess, of the expectation and all part of that kind of experience.
I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about the short time that I worked with you guys at Glowmade was the junior staff almost that you had on board. Is that something that you've kind of continued in the sense? I know you said that you want to, you're ideally looking for someone to have shipped a game prior
that was just like an example.
Oh,
when we say that, I think. Well, do you want to do some talking?
Yeah, so I guess it's so. Just from the art point of view, we purposefully have kind of looked from sort of graduates, because I find the graduates are the most sort of. They've learnt everything in a really short space of time. They're still kind of. I know exactly. Well, so they probably know it better than. Well, they certainly know it better than I do. Because like, if you get someone experienced, they maybe have shipped a game, but they're not. They haven't had that. They haven't still got their options open. So everything about the industry is fresh in these people's minds, and they come in and they're so skilled and they're so enthusiastic because all they've been doing for the last 2 years is using their own brains. Yeah. They haven't sort of been. So if you get like someone experienced, I've shipped sort of a couple of games from AAA companies, but they've been just varied stuff to do, whereas you get graduates and it's like they are so imaginative. So then it's like we're an imaginative company, and yet you've got this fresh brain that comes in and knows how to do everything, and you're just like, this is wonderful. We can teach you how to get a game ready to ship, but you've got like this mad mind. So, and I love getting graduates in. Yeah, they're really from the art ones. It's just like fantastic. I love it. And the energy that you get from a staff member like that as well, it does make a huge difference to, again, the whole kind of ecosystem of the room. Yeah, that's very cool. So how important would you say studio culture is, and how do you go about looking after it at Glowmade? Because it's certainly one of those things that if it's not mothered to a certain extent, it can fall to bits and it's forgotten about, and the end.
I think there's so many elements to trying to build a culture, because like some things you can kind of inject and say this is what we want, but a lot of it comes from the people. Obviously, I think we set up Glowmade as a studio with an office, and that's always been my vision. It's been like having a team in the place, and then the last 6 months when we've suddenly all been remote has been a real challenge, because not only have we've changed the some of the working practices and stuff, but also the people. People who gravitate towards working in an office are people who wants to work in an office, and vice versa. So suddenly we've got a lot of people who wanted to work on site not being able to. So I think when it comes to kind of building a culture, like I don't think a culture is. I don't think of it as like a building. I think of it as like a blob, and
like yeast.
Okay. But it's a blob that's kind of always moulding and changing, and is moving with the people within it. So we always say like people have a voice. Like that is, I think people want to be heard. People deserve to be heard, and like Adam said, when you bring in graduates who've got dramatically different life experiences from people who've been doing it for 20 years, and you get both of them together, then it becomes really interesting, because suddenly you've got two different points of view who both want to achieve the same thing, which is something great at the end. But that's where some really cool stuff happens. Defo. I don't know about you guys, but I could not be more grateful that all of this lockdown stuff happened once I was in my mid-30s and not all that bothered about going to offices anymore. Because I would have really suffered 10 years ago. I would have been the person that really wanted to be with people. And I think when I still do. Certainly, when we've got families at home, so we get shut up with families. But then you've got people who are on their own, and or they're on their own in a shared house, which is kind of the same. And certainly, the work relationships are hugely important to them in a way that it might not be quite so much for me or Adam or whatever, because we've just got a different view on it. And trying to kind of understand that, get underneath that, and support everybody where they're at when you're suddenly going through this pandemic and a lockdown and remote working, and it's challenging, but it's also really rewarding, because I think we have a really good time. We have like daily kind of calls where we chat about anything but work. We get the whole team on and we chat, and we have Q&As with team members, and we're doing lockdown long plays, which is so nice. It's Desert Island Discs, but for but for us. And so we're doing those kind of things where we're just kind of humanising people and actually saying, look, this is work, but also this is a community, this is a culture, this is a thing we're building together.
For sure. I think that's a really, really good way to look at it. Are you putting those out on social media, long plays?
We've got a playlist, which we will.
Just checking. Okay, let's ask the important questions then. Here we go. Let's talk about Guildford. Hit me with your favourite Guildford game. Past or present? Doesn't have to be a studio that exists anymore. You can say Lionhead, that's fine.
Favourite Guildford game?
Favourite Guildford game? I was going to say nothing, but...
Whoa,
Wow.
I don't remember that one.
But,
try again.
Apart from our own, obviously,
Oh,
Fable 2.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Just because that's one of the only games that I've enjoyed playing once it was done and didn't get sort of wake up in a cold sweat hearing sort of the same theme tune over and over.
That's nice, yeah, and you're joined by so many people around the world who also see it as...
Fable 2 was the Empire Strikes Back of the Fable franchise.
I'm afraid Steph Ford recently got quite upset with me for saying 2 over 3, but I think we all know why, so whatever. Jonny, you?
Little Big Planet 1, because it's cool and it's amazing, and it was really kind of groundbreaking, and I think I got really fond memories of the culture and the environment that we made that in. Media Molecule as well. Again, it was an early startup, really.
It must have been so exciting.
Anyway, it's bonkers. So, yeah, I love that.
Guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and out of your bubbles to come and see us. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon.
It's a pleasure. Get back in those orbs.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.